When you find good people, keep them. My last three endeavors have kind of the same core team as we've moved from company to company. As you mentioned, had some successful exits. It's hard to find really good people, not only people that are talented, but work well with you, because people can be really talented. And there's a lot of work styles that work for people. So when you find good people that you vibe with and work well with, keep them. If you go through LinkedIn, your feed, or Twitter, you would think the world is revolutionized by AI. Somebody that deals with frontline companies, big and small, 90% of the companies have nothing on the business side that's truly proven operational. They're willing to scale and risk their business on it. There's two steps regarding AI that no one really wants to do, that are old school, painful, and not sexy. So people are like, I'm not doing that. You have to find out all the processes your team's doing in an area that you're targeting.
Welcome to the CEO and the Salesman podcast. Today, I've got a real treat for us all. It's Jack Siney. Jack Siney has done 9-figure deals, done 7 businesses, 5 exits, had a .com wipeout. I'm sure we're going to go ahead and talk about. He's negotiated on behalf of the US military and just done a whole bunch of stuff. And what I'm really excited about today is to really understand the value and where it sits in the AI stack when it comes to selling. So welcome to the podcast, Jack.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks for having me. Hopefully today will be super informative and have some counter ideas to what's happening when we all see in our social media feeds. We'll see.
Oh man, well, you know, it's all there just to, I think you said in a pre-conversation, it's all vendors trying to sell some stuff, make the best version of themselves, right?
Amen. Well, knock the hustle.
Mate, I want to get into your career. I've built a couple of businesses myself and had some successful exits and had probably just as many wipeouts. So it's good that you've only had 1 out of 7. So well, congratulations. So mate, what has actually been I've crossed them all. What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned that you continue to take forward into this business, and you keep talking to other entrepreneurs when you're sending the ladder down, or when you're sending the rope down? Hey, what other entrepreneurs need to know from those exits that you, or the blow ups, or the successes?
Sure. Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. Obviously, entrepreneurial process super hard. I always say to folks, if it was easy, everybody would do it. So
sure.
Just know, there's this thing about AI, like everyone's going to start companies. We're all going to be our own businesses and all that stuff, but it's hard. And if it wasn't hard, again, there'd be no money in it and everybody would do it. So
no value in it. Like there's value in that effort, right? And this is why people in the military talk about the most meaningful time in their life was going through that training, and they build those relationships, because it's hard, and the difficulty is whether people find meaning. Sorry, mate.
Totally. No, totally agree. I totally agree with that. I just want to be encouraging to the entrepreneurs, because we don't get a lot of support, and we know the stats going in, but still, it's easy to say, but at night when you're staring at the ceiling and you don't know what tomorrow brings, it can be a little daunting. We all get that knot in our stomach. But
exactly.
To your question, I would just share 2 points. One is, when you find good people, keep them. I've been blessed. My last 3 endeavors have kind of had the same core team as we've moved from company to company. As you mentioned, had some successful exits, and I would just say, it's hard to find really good people, not only people that are talented, but work well with you, because that's not always the case, right? People can be really talented, and there's a lot of work styles that work for people. There's not one size fits all. And so when you find good people that you vibe with and work well with, keep them, find a home for them, because you'll need them. So I think that's crucial. And we've been blessed to do that across a couple companies. And then secondly, I'm a big believer in creating a great culture, creating a place people want to work. And the folks that have worked around me know I always say this: you hire adults and treat them like adults. And as soon as you have to get into that mode of like, I got to micromanage my team, or I got to put somebody on a PIP, or all that stuff, to me is like, that we're not synergizing. 2 + 2 is no longer 5. And so just encourage folks, find great people, empower them to do great things, and I think you'll be surprised about how your organization grows, and how those people help you find answers to the problems you're confronting each day. So,
man, I absolutely love this. In my career, I've had a few businesses that I've been involved in, also advised, and a lot of that has felt like adult daycare. Yeah. And so that's a real problem. And I'm as guilty as my clients. I'm not saying I'm great at this sort of stuff. I've had to become better at these types of things. But you're absolutely right about finding the right people. And I think that one of the great challenges I see in selling and marketing is the first sales or marketing recruits are low cost, because the entrepreneur doesn't want to spend too much money. The problem is, great people are never cheap.
Yeah, amen.
And so that's a problem. Is that I guess the two things they're trying to pull against each other, right?
Well, I would just say this, right? If you're a manager, you have a team, and you know when you get that knot in your stomach about a person, and listen, there's great sidebar. There's great people that work in HR. They are. But to me, in my career, HR normally is limiting factor. Like, you can't say this, you can't tell them that. We got to put them in the PIP. And you're like, that's not, especially entrepreneurially, that's not the real world. And I think people want to work in organizations they trust, they're excited about. The people around them are driven in the same way they are. And when you are able to do that, it's an amazing, because winning gets winning, right? And so just encourage you to find those good people, hold on to them, and people want to grow. They want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and painting that picture, treating them honestly. And I'll tell you, for me, some of my best moments in corporate world company building are some of the most awkward moments when you're trying to be really real with people, because people go through life too. When you're building a company, like, people are going through their own stuff in their personal life, and the ability to lean into that, be sensitive to it. If somebody's parent is passing away, something really bad happened, you have to acknowledge it as a company. You have to give them space. You have to let them, you can be like, still come here every day, work 8 hours a day or whatever you're doing, or, put in your time. You're like, they're not focused. You know what I mean? And acknowledging that and breathing into it and being sensitive to it will pay off tenfold down the road. Being a real person and treating your higher adults, treat them like adults. So,
man, I love that. And I'm not blaming accountants or HR, but yeah, it's easy to try to find dilute a contribution to a line item, and if and so that's potentially a challenge, because when in the soundbite, it's hard to articulate a person's value in the soundbite other than what's the number, what's the attendance, what's the sales number, all those types of things. So I love that. So look, you spent your early career negotiating on behalf of the US Navy. So what did you learn from that experience that you then, so let's start with that. What did you learn from that experience that you then brought forward into your current entrepreneurial career?
That's a while ago. Yeah. So I came right out of undergrad. I went to go work for NavAir, and just got assigned kind of randomly on the F-18 fighter jet program for the Navy. That's the Blue Angel program. If you're familiar with the Blue Angels, who go around and fly and kind of promote the Navy, and awesome experience. I don't think anyone goes to college and says, "Oh, I'm going to go work for the Navy as a civilian," which is what I did. But I'll just say at 21, 22, I got to see an array of things that most 21, 22-year-old people don't get to see. I'll tell you one quick story. I literally, my first day ever in the work world, went to college, took the summer off, started my job in September. First day ever on the job. This is 1991, I think, dating myself. But at that time, Iraq was in a war with Iran. We were siding with Iraq. We were selling them fighter jet planes. We were selling them F-18s. We're at a big project management meeting, whatever you picture, Washington, D.C., big long table, a lot of generals, all in uniforms. I'm sitting in the back, and again, first day on the job, suit, They take a break, lunch break. One of the generals from Iraq comes over. In the old school, if you remember these, when you got pictures developed, they'd come in like a little flip thing. All the pictures would be like at Kmart. They'd be flip the pictures up. General walks over to me, shows me his base, his Air Force base, with all these bombings, all these pictures, trying to sell me how they need F-18 fighter jets. And I was like, bro, I have no sway in this room. I was just an American in a suit sitting in the room, and he thought, that guy, he'll help us get the deal done. But
wow.
I'll just say this. I grew up in Maryland, lived in the DC area. And when you grow up in that area, you don't realize until you get away from it, which I have my adult life, that most people around the country are not involved in the government and the debt and what happens as much as when you live in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, it dominates the news cycle. The companies are in that world. So that was my biggest takeaway. As soon as I got out of the Maryland, DC, mid-Atlantic area, you're like, oh, the whole country doesn't swirl around what the government's doing and the budgets and the shutdowns and all that stuff. So interesting way to start my career. So.
Yeah, I found that when I worked in the mining sector in Australia, that the people in the mining sector, their kids are in the mining sector or their parents are in the mining sector, and it's quite insular. And there's certain areas that do this sort of stuff. Whereas before I got that gig, I'd never even considered it as a job. I didn't even think about it. So I can imagine that DC and those areas, it's all about that. In Canberra in Australia, obviously everybody wants to go work and get those particular roles because it's about developing their career. Whereas, I come from an entrepreneurial background, and it was just always about, how do I build a business, and how do I, because I've only ever eaten what I've killed. I've never worked for anybody else.
Wow.
Since I was 19, selling vacuum cleaners door to door.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, I started with the Navy and then went to PricewaterhouseCoopers, two of the biggest organizations in America. And then I never went back. My two experiences with large organizations, I'm like, I know one thing. I never want to do it again.
Really.
I can't. Everything's so slow. It takes forever. Blah blah blah. And again, there are some value to being part of a big organization. You get trained. There are big budgets. You have great, typically health insurance and stuff. But for me, definitely that led my path to being an entrepreneur, because I knew after 5 or 6 years, I'm like, this is not going to work for me.
So what did you pick up from Price Waterhouse that you use today? Is there anything that you still remember and you go, I learned that back in the day?
Yeah, the consulting firms are amazing organizations. I would say I was never worth what they build me out as, but from a structure, how to present positions, how to convince clients your value, how to research and find solutions, present those in a really professional way. Those are all great. You look back, and my time at the Navy and Pricewaterhouse were really valuable as far as putting good foundation for how to be a business professional, how to, again, present ideas, how to be persuasive in those settings. So,
got it. Cool. So you worked for the biggest organizations in the world. What was the moment that you went, it's time to go do my own thing?
It was just a lead up of frustrations, right? Let's have an idea. Let's go do it tomorrow. And then, when you're a part of a big organization, it is like, great idea. Now we got to present it. Now we got to get it approval. Now we got to get it funded. Maybe we'll start it 9, 10, 8, 12 months from now. Thanks so much. And you're like, oh, geezy peasy. By the time that sees the light of day, it won't even be relevant anymore. And so, you have that happen to you 3 or 4 times. You're like, well, this is not going to work for me. And then, especially when you're young in your career, you're not sure, is this the norm? You know what I mean? Like, does this happen everywhere in the world? You're like, especially when I was with the Navy, my first job, I'm like, is this how business works? Things in the government, there's some stereotypes that are true. And you're like, this can't be how Apple and Google were created, And so those are some interesting times. So.
Yeah, cool, man. Excellent. Well, look, let's fast forward to today. And you've spoken about AI. And of course, no podcast is a podcast in 2026 without discussing
no
AI.
Website, no company. If you don't say you have AI, you might as well not even do it.
That's it. Unless you're going for government contracts, then you can get away with probably none of those things. You see that in the news recently, where that the company, I think it's been around for 8 days, got $140 million from some department.
Yep, it's crazy. It's I would just say we are a B2B company, and so I talked to thousands of companies over the last couple of years. When you go to every website has to have AI on it. You could be a cooking company. Whatever you're doing, you have to have some AI swing to it, or somehow you're not relevant. It's super frustrating to watch.
Exactly, and actually, I'm currently advising my existing clients to stop using AI because it's so overbaked.
No one today goes, we're on the internet, right? Like, it's like, of course, of course you are, of course.
Or we use electricity.
Right.
We use electricity. We're an electrified company. What, really?
Listen, one of my theories, this is a free one, and early in the podcast. Listen, always zig when the market zags, right? If everybody's AI, you are just going to get washed away in the noise. And so the right way to counter is to go the opposite way. Seriously. I mean, if you're pitching to companies, they hear AI all day, all the machinations and blah, blah, blah. And so just encourage if you're trying to create sway in the marketing world, going against the grain is the number one way to do it. Charles Barkley, I'm not a role model years ago. I'm not, when you go counter to the norm, that's what sticks out. If you just lead with AI right now, there's a lot happening. It's going to be very challenging unless you got deep marketing budget. So.
Yeah, I love that. One of my clients, literally, we're putting in a whole bunch of processes and services around generating more revenue. And one of the key elements that the founder has said is, I want my customer service to be a person. Yep. And I want them able to be reached on the phone. And which sounds so crazy in today's world, but you realize that the commoditization of that service aspect has caused me and probably many, many people here in America to be, well, if I can get a better deal with an insurance company or a bank or a telco or any of these services, I'm just going to flip. Whereas my parents and my grandparents, they had a relationship with their banker. They had a relationship with these people, and they stuck with them forever. And so the commoditization and the narrowing of the line item that we spoke about already has caused those people to forget actually that there's a human in the loop here.
Oh my God! Today, mid-April, if you get LinkedIn, there's a huge. It's when something goes viral, it's all over LinkedIn, which is a SDR automation company, raised a ton of money, grew to like 10 million ARR in like 6 months. Founder shut it down by his own conviction, got interviewed. Like, what are you doing? They were having a ton of success. He literally, honestly, was like, it's all over the internet right now. He's like, it doesn't work. He's like, I can't. He goes, do we get leads? We do. Do we generate appointments for companies? We do. Is it sticking? It's not. And we know on the business sales side, there's a portion of it that's relationship and people to people. Now, not for commodity stuff maybe, but for real things, if you're SDR and trying to create demand and generate, it's super challenging. And just to say we're going to throw an agent at it and be automated and it's going to work, no.
Which brings me to I feel like an evangelist church. I just want to jump up and yell testify. So I really like this, Jack, because it is. What I'm finding in marketing is that the marketing is doing a significant amount of work, but marketing's had to work harder than ever before, because I've been marketing and selling for 30 years, same as you. But also salespeople have to be better. Than the SDR function has to be better, and they have to be more and more human. Yep. They need to be more capable and more able to build a relationship faster than ever before. Whereas, my first tech business in 1999, we'd put an advert in the newspaper, which is hilarious. They'd phone us, which is also crazy. And then the salesperson would do all the work. They would build the relationship, have various conversations, and just step the person along. Whereas today, they become product, problem, or company aware. And then it's 60% of the sale is done through being what they read online, what they see out there, the conversations they have with friends or colleagues. Then when they engage with the sales function, that person can't be, so tell me about your business. Yeah. Because if you're opening with tell me about your business, you're cooked. The person's going to go, well, I've spent 6 hours researching your company. You couldn't spend 6 minutes researching mine?
Totally. Yeah, the classic sales model, right? Old school is, hey, contact 100 people, 20 of them are interested. You talk to 20, 10 are interested, 5 agree to a meeting, you sell 2, right? Some flavor of those numbers. And it's like, where AI had, on the business side, where AI, I think, has the most applicability right now is in the marketing function. Like, hey, what if we didn't have to talk to 100? That's been the norm the last 30 years. What if I only had to talk to 25 to talk to 20 to get your 3, 4, 5 meetings? I mean, that there's a lot there, but pure AI is doing amazing things on the tech side. The business side, it's a major challenge, and we kind of started the call with that. But yeah, if you go through LinkedIn, your feed, or Twitter, you would think the world is revolutionized by AI. And I'm just telling you, as somebody that deals with frontline companies, big and small, 90% of the companies have nothing on the business side that's truly proven operational. They're willing to scale and risk their business on. It's just not happening. Is AI great? It is. Does it have a lot of holes? It does. And so that's the reality that very, very few people want to talk about. So
yeah, absolutely. And I saw a meme on Facebook, on LinkedIn the other day, and it had a picture of a person wearing a Rolex sitting in a Ferrari, and the caption was, "I commented Claude on a LinkedIn post."
Yeah, man.
The person, so all these people are getting rich with 10,000 leads because they downloaded the latest idea or framework or whatever it might be. There's still got to be a process to actually sell these people and build a reputation. And I know people who are selling hundreds of thousands of dollars worth a month of products without a sales team, but they've spent 25 years building this reputation. Yeah. Where it's all pull in and they manage it, and they manage their supply and demand structure. They really do a great job of marketing, and they need less or fewer salespeople in the loop than ever before. But that is an anomaly because the person's built 25 years building reputation.
Right. AI is great for like analyst type things. And again, we were talking about this in one of our prior meetings, but listen, if we're really honest, to take a step back, this put tech into sales and the commercial side is about 40 years old now. Salesforce got launched in, I think, 2000, first CRM in the 80s. And we're now in hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in tech stack, right? CRM and conversation intelligence and pipeline management. Now we want to add AI. God bless. You can go Google, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you want. Hey, are we any better today hitting forecast, public company, private company, making goal, percentage of sales team reaching goal? Now, 40 years later with this enormous tech stack, are we any better? The answer is no. The answer is no. And actually, depending on who you ask, we're worse. Like, we have more data now, so it's more an exact science. We know we miss 25 to 35% of the time. We know years ago, TBD, but we may be worse. And so it is shocking. We've spent all this money. We have all this analytics. We have all these dashboards. We have all these KPIs. We're no better. We are no better if you have a sales team of 50, you have 5 people crushing it, you have 45 people, you're struggling to get better. It's the same dynamic. Companies miss their goal. Public companies will miss their forecast. Again, 25 to 35% of the time. I mean, those are just stats. How can that be? How can we be this far down the road? All the automation, all the tech, Salesforce, HubSpot, they're all great, by the way, taking no shots at them, but we're no better at delivering results, which is all companies care about. Like, can we hit the number? Can we deliver on what we said we're going to do? No. How can we be no better at that? That is shocking. And now we're going to add AI on top of it, which is a complete disruptor. So
yeah. And so how does FrontRace address this? I just want to understand what you guys are doing over there to address this issue.
That's just such a loaded question. So there's so many multi-faceted sides of it. So I don't want to go into a commercial, but I'll just give you a couple of perspectives that I think are relevant. One of the things we did, we strategically created FrontRace, and on these paradigms, we are like a layer that we add to any company's current tech stack. So don't replace anything you have. Let's connect what you have today, normalize the data, right? Because the problem in AI today, the numbers are, last year, U.S. companies spent $650 million. A vast majority of that had no mass implementation across the company. It depends on what study you read from McKinsey or ISG or you name it. So what's the problem with that? We spent all the money. Companies don't have their data organized, and they don't know their processes. They don't know the processes their people are actually doing. They think they know, right? So they think every sales leader has a process chart. If you're in a mature company, you're like, here's our steps. We first do an outreach, and then we send an email. Then we send our one-pager. Then we schedule a meeting. Then we have a demo. Then we follow up, right? We all know. So you've got a process flow chart, and it's 22 steps in it. And the reality is your best people at most companies are doing 2 things. One, they're moving those boxes around. They're not following your process. But more importantly, the number of real process are probably triple that. It's probably 60 steps, actually. When somebody's football team wins, they send a text. When something relevant happens, they send them a news article. They talk about non-business things. They send them more relevant stuff. They update them on irrelevant things. Like, there's a million things that happen, not million, but tens of things that happen that aren't in those process charts. So then you go out, hire an AI agent, right? Because that's what everyone tells you to do. Hey, let's just get rid of the SDR team, or I'm going to get rid of a couple of my sales reps, and I'm going to tell them to follow these 22 steps. Well, when they follow the 22 steps, the reason it's not resulting in any sales or any success is because, again, it's really 42 steps. But companies don't know. Leaders don't know. That's why after 40 years of all this tech, people don't know. We're not any better at it. So to connect the dots, what FrontRace does, we put a layer on top of whatever you have. Don't change anything you're doing. Keep doing all the stuff you're doing. We'll connect your data. We'll normalize it. Then we're going to start to use AI and non-AI analytics to start to tell you what's happening at your company, right? We're going to be like, hey, here's the process your team's really using. It's actually 29 steps. It's not 22 steps. It's 38 steps, right? We will micro-analyze all the little details, make sure an apple is an apple through the whole process, right? Make sure all the data is there. When you have that stuff, when you're able to have a baseline of analytics for your company, then, and only then, if you want success, can you start to add this amazing automation that's out here, all this crazy good stuff. But if you try to automate something that requires a person, gonna fail. It's just, but you can automate the things that are very analytically driven, very basic, right? But if you try today, companies do this. Hey, we're just going to take Claude or ChatGPT. We're just going to place it against our data set and run some analytics. With 100% certainty, if you do any complex query, it's going to come out wrong. If you say, who are my top sales reps, it'll get it. Who has the most emails, it'll get it. Who has the biggest pipeline, fine. But if you say, hey, last quarter, who started the quarter with the biggest pipeline, did the most outreach, and had the most success at the end of the quarter, no chance, zero, that any of those LLMs are going to get that answer right, because it can't put the data together right. It can't, it hallucinates. You've all seen a million things online. There's a bunch of stuff I could get into, but it doesn't work right. And so you need a way to connect, standardize the data. And that's the last piece FrontRace does. We have this, what we call metric engine, that we hard code every metric that you start to analyze. And AI provides new metrics you can start to analyze. Historically, have not been available to companies. Qualitative things, not only the steps, but the order of the steps. How much time between the steps? How much did the relationship when we started affect whether we closed the deal? So there's a million little variables we've never measured corporately that FrontRace will start to give you. And so that's what we believe the three-sided magic pivot is for companies to make them really good at AI. And you can plug other AI tools in. We're not replacing those, but we're giving you a basis of what's actually happening in your company. That's the magic of FrontRace.
So how do you create that personal human engagement that you mentioned, send them the football jersey or talk about their football team? Because it feels to me that if we bake that too deeply in, then it's just going to be everybody gets a jersey or everybody gets a hey, congratulations on the Buccaneers doing this or whatever. I've been in America 7 months, so I don't know enough. I don't know enough of the teams. But anyway, so even if that is a team, okay, cool. So how do we still make sure that the human and how do we, because the customer is a human, because all sales, businesses don't buy things, governments don't buy things, giant corporations don't buy things, humans buy things.
Amen.
And so how do we create that? And maybe that's where there's still the wet, messy humanity needs to exist in this whole process. But so how do we make sure, or how do we create that opportunity for the human to be a human?
Yep. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. We can go as far as you want, but I would say to you, as somebody's been working on that, the great question, it is the question, right? And so I would just say to you, we at FrontRace feel the following. The magic, Larry Ellison said this a couple weeks ago. All the LLMs today are using open data, whatever's available on the internet, So pick whatever one you want. You can have a favorite. Who really cares? They're going to get the same data. The magic is in your data. The magic is in your corporate data. And the more data you have and the longer you have it for with more people, the more magic there is in there. Okay? And to answer your question, we believe the magic is in the micro data. It's in all the little things. And AI is amazing at this. AI can go at a micro level, not just look, because what you do, think about this. What companies do, they hire every sales rep, put them through the same 22 step. This is our sales process. Here it is. This is what we do. This is how we win. Bobby, Susan, Michael, this is the process. Follow it, we'll win. The reality is they're all different, number one. Yep. They're all different personalities, a different background. And by the way, every prospect's different. They come from different verticals typically, different sizes. They have different budgets. So we're saying, follow this standard process, but you're a totally different person. And by the way, and your clients are in different verticals and different sizes, blah, blah, blah. And so we're trying to jam a round peg, or was it square peg into a round hole? It's ridiculous. And so, but what AI can start to do, what FrontRace helps companies do, is it starts to take how you sell. Hey, how does Matthew sell? Well, Matthew, you know what? He's great during the demo. He's great doing the pricing. And the stats say maybe not great at the closing. So let's bring a resource to help at closing. Or the opposite. He's not great on the demo, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes to pricing and closing, so what AI is great at doing is analyzing every rep at a micro level, what they're good and bad at. Not, by the way, not someone's opinion. What do the stats say? Did we win? Because that's all we care about. We don't care you went through Miller Hyman or Sandler training. We care that did we win? And even if it's not traditional, we've all had this. I'm sure you've had this, Matt. You brought somebody in, hired them. They did something that was totally ridiculous. You're like, that's never going to work. And it works. And you're like, holy crap. Who knew, right? And so did we win? And so what AI allows you to do, here's what we do corporately that works. Great. Here's what Michael does. That's great. Oh, no, by the way, we're selling to a company that has these characteristics. Here, you combine all three of those, and here's how we win. AI is great at taking deeply complex analytics and piecing them together. If you have the right metrics and right hard data points in between, that's what's amazing. And so to your point, you're right. Every deal is different. And so we couldn't do it before. If you were a CRO, you couldn't have a team of 20 and be like, Bob, you sell like that. Mary, you sell, you do your thing. And Larry, you do that. And Bob never calls and Mary makes 1,000. Dude, you'd have chaos. We couldn't accommodate the real world. And so what's happening now with AI, we can start to allow Matthew to sell how he's great at selling, coach him up, help make him better, let him be great at what he does. Oh, and we can go over here to Mary. She sells totally different. Mary sells based upon relationship and networking and what have you. And Mike's from New York and he's cutthroat. He doesn't care. It's all about the deal. And so that's the magic of what AI can do for companies. And we believe what FrontRace allows you to do, it's customize your sales process for your people and the prospects. And that's what's been missing for 40 years. That's why all this tech has made almost no difference in our ability to deliver on success to the CEO and the board.
Mate, I love that. I think that's so important. Just as you were talking there, I was just remembering in one of my sales rooms, I had the two top performers, Simon and Warren. One guy was incredible relator, lovely guy, jokey, friendly, just a generally nice guy you'd go and have a beer with all the time. And Warren, I also loved Warren. Both of them were great. But Warren was the type of person that if a person said something that was wrong, he would go, "No, you're very wrong."
Yeah.
He would absolutely nail them, but he had the intelligence and the articulation to back up what he was saying, and he sold from a position of authority. And whereas he sold based on authority and clarity, whereas Simon sold on relationships and just building that trust there. And so I couldn't put a new recruit with either of them and say, this is the way to do it.
It's so true. Listen, if somebody's listen to this and being like, nah, your guys are full of crap. Listen, I just encourage you to go through this little exercise. If you have a sales team or you're a sales leader, you're a CEO, every company has this. If you have 5 or more people, you have this. You have 2 reps, or on client service, same thing. 2 reps, their metrics are basically the same. Okay? Everyone, good. Stay with me. If you think about your team right now, you have a bunch of reps, 2 reps, metrics the same. One is outselling or out-retaining the other one by 3x or 4x, right? We've all had this, right? You're like, and then the CEO or somebody from the board asks you to come in. They say, why is that happening? Like, why is that happening? And then what we've done for decades in sales, myself included, we start to then juggle. We make up I don't know. Well, you just said, Mary's just good at talking. Bob had a good network. He's just a better communicator. He's a better negotiator. He's a better closer. It's all made up. The reality is we don't know.
Yep.
And we would just make something up so we didn't look like a complete idiot. And so if you're honest, don't do this in public. Don't do it in front of your board or CEO. We don't know. We've not known for years. We do not, can we just take what Mary's doing and put it in a box? Like what? I don't know what it is. Why can we not? Why can't I share it? And the reason is, I believe we've not measured the right things over all these years. And that's what I believe AI is going to do for us in the next 10 years. It's going to let us shine a light on the little black hole that's been in sales of like, why is Mary 3x better than Tom? And it is a series of things that we've historically not been able to measure. Some of the things I mentioned earlier. Hey, what was the tonality? What was the professionalism? Those can sound pithy, but they can be measured now. But then, hey, not only what was done, what order were they done, right? What was the time between those variables? Hey, how did that lead come into the company? Hey, where were we in the company sales-wise? Because we all know this. We're having a good quarter. We're not discounting. We're struggling. Very flexible on price. That's how most companies are, right? We need a deal. So all those affect what happens. Your sales reps are the same way. Your reps having a bad month, they're typically spiraling out of control, right? When it's bad, they're saying bad things. You're like, your reps is crushing it. Winning begets winning. And so measuring that, Because Bob was crushing it. You know why Bob was crushing it? Because he got this huge deal. He was super confident. So because he was already at quota, his next 4 deals, he increased the price 10%. He was super confident on the phone. So we can start to measure, why is it happening, which has been a secret, again, for 40 years. And so feel really humbly that that's what FrontRace delivers for companies, and excited to kind of share that with the organizations that we're working with.
Mate, that's so cool. So you talked in our pre-conversation about the steps to success with AI, and that's something that because
not sexy, right?
Because the real challenge is that everybody wants it, right? Everybody thinks they want it, and it's so ubiquitous, so available. We hear stories online, we listen to podcasts, and some guy says, who I know, like, and trust very, very well. He says, well, we decided not to engage this lawyer who wanted 50 grand. We decided to go ahead and just put $20 into Claude, and we got an answer, and we saved $50,000. So these are the headlines we're hearing.
Yep.
But then when it comes to implementation, what do you think are the processes and steps people need to go through to really make this work at a commercial level?
Yep. On my soapbox now, let me stand up on my soapbox. One, I just want to say out loud, again, is AI great on basic analytics stuff? It is. Is it great for creating verbiage? Is it great for creating content? It is. On the tech side, on the tech side, it's crushing right now. 10x, God bless. I'm just talking about, from my perspective, on the business side, on the commercial side, what's real and scalable, right? And I'm just going to say very little is scalable. Are people using it and helping them be more efficient? They are, right? But there's 2 steps, what you're intimating out from our conversation. There's 2 steps regarding AI that no one really wants to do, that are old school, painful, and not sexy. So people are like, I'm not doing that. But if you don't, you might as well just take your money you want to spend on AI and throw it out the window, or throw it in the trash, or donate it to some organization. So the 2 steps are the following. Listen, I mentioned earlier, you have to find out all the processes your team's doing in an area that you're targeting. All of them, not the boxes you created, but with your sales reps. What is everything from the time a lead comes in to we close the deal with a signed contract? What are all the steps? All of them, all the extra text, the interactions.
But how do you capture that? Sorry, Jack, I just want to pull you up on that.
Yeah.
How do you capture that? If we say we've got a 22-step process or a 6-step process, we send the brochure out, we call them up, we follow them, we do this.
Great question. Thank you.
How do you do that?
Amen. So it goes back to the following, right? The other part, by the way, is the data. So let's come to that. But the process thing. So here's what we do. There's probably other people who can do it, but here's what we do. When I talk about a layer, we put a layer on top of your tech stack where what AI does, it makes this a lot easier than it was 10 years ago, which is connect your platforms, whatever you have today, collect your platforms, normalize the data. That's the first step. So get out of the data silos, get your CRM data, your call data, your email data, your video conference data, your contracting data, your pipeline data. You got to get it all in one place and normalize the data, right? And so every company we deal with, when we then do a picture of someone's week, there'll be holes in that. It will not be perfect day one, but that's way better than what most companies had. So we normally work with the client. We're able to account for about 70 to 80% of what happens, right? But inevitably, the following occurs. Hey, Bob, or when you go talk to a rep, hey, Bob, how are you doing that? He's like, oh, well, I search on LinkedIn for 3 hours and get my leads. Or, hey, I send 16 texts. Here's my text. And their platform's not capturing text. Or they can't monitor the LinkedIn. So then the company has to decide, do we want to add automation to capture what's happening? Because some CRMs can capture text, right? Do we either not care about that time, or do we want to start to automate it so we can see what's happening? Does that make sense? That's what we do with emails. That's what we do with video conference. That's what we do with phone calls now, right? Gong is a multi-billion-dollar company. We used to just have phone calls, and Gong's like, now we're going to listen. We're going to record them all, transcribe them, listen to it, analyze the crap out of it. That's a thing now. When it first got released, people were pissed. They're like, you're going to listen to all my calls? And you're going to, what? What are you doing? Right? That's true, right? Are you around when Gong got released? So that's what we do. We'll give you a baseline. Companies, no one will have perfect data, but then companies can start to decide, do I want to see what's happening on LinkedIn with my people? Do I want to see the text they're sending? Do I want to see the non-business interactions they're having? Like, the companies can decide. We're not mandating that, but that's the answer to your question. To aggregate the data, most companies have a majority of it. They already have systems in place. And then, after they have their baseline, do they want to add other systems to capture the time and the effort they don't see? But that's how we address it. We start at a micro level, want to see everything that happened. And inevitably you go to the best rep and you're like, hey, it seems like there's a chunk of time here and nothing's happening. What's that about? And he's like, oh, well, I was doing this, or I was out playing golf, or whatever it is. You're like, no judgment. By the way, this is not a judgment of whether it's good or bad. It's just, what is it? We don't know what it is. Forget, people jump right to, well, Billy's working at home. He's out golfing. How long is he golfing? It's like, that's on you. That's going back to hire adults, treat them like adults. If you don't trust your people and you think they're screwing you, that's on you. But if you're trying to figure out why are you winning, and now you want to hire 5 more reps this year and show them how you're winning, if you don't have FrontRace or some tool to go through the process, how are you going to train them? Like, think about this. Matthew, you mentioned you've been an entrepreneur the last 30 years. Look, the old days, I'd hire a rep. I'd be like, you mentioned earlier, follow Matthew. He's great. And then pick a couple things from him, but not all of it. And then go follow Susan. She's great. Pick some things from her. And then go follow Mike. Pick a couple things from him. Make it your own and go be great. That's what we used to do, right? We train them, but once they're on the sales floor, sit and learn, right? You can't do that anymore. Most companies are remote, work from home, spread all over the country. I can't send anyone to Matthew's living room. Go sit in Matthew's house and listen to him. You can't do it. So, or maybe you have some recorded calls, but you don't get the same thing. We all know that. So you literally need to show people what's being done. Literally.
Yeah. So I think one of the best things that ever happened, the worst thing that ever happened to sales teams was work from home, simply because there's none of that absorption through osmosis thing,
Yep.
because I would hire a person and they could hear one guy over here is super accurate and articulate, another person over here who's super relatable, another person over here who's following the scripted word for word, another person over here, and they actually get to sort of tune into various people and then build their own personality and build their own process. And the 8, 9 guys that were in my room, they were all absolute murderers. They were so good, but none of them sold the same way. And if I send somebody to, if this was work from home, I don't know if that business would survive, because I was not a good trainer. I wrote a script which was 2 pages, and then I would write a script. This is
I've been there, done that.
I wrote the script. I recorded myself using a dictaphone, which is a little tape recorder. For anybody under the age of 50, they had a little tape recorder, little tiny cassettes. I would record the conversation as I was having the sales call and say, this is how it's done. This is the sale. This is how you run it. And they would listen to that. And then I would literally stand next to them when they would make those calls. And then I would hand them a box of dead leads. Literally would have a box of leads, so paper leads, because very, very old. Put it on their desk and say, you can't talk to a new live lead until you made a sale to a dead lead. Go. Yeah. And then people would either in a month wash out or in a month succeed. And so it was sort of up to them. But the thing
How many times have you done this? How many times you wrote a pitch? It looks and sounds great on paper. You know what I mean? And then you get in a live call. You're like, nope. You know exactly where it's choppy. You go through. You're like, whoa, erase.
You're saying it.
You know what I mean? You redo it 50 times. Yep.
Yeah.
I want to close the loop on one thing. No, I just want to close the loop on one thing. So it's the steps. It's what's the process. Because you mentioned how are people have success in AI? Because I don't, whether you get FrontRace or not, I don't care. I just want to help people be better at AI. Listen, you've got to know your process, whatever by any means necessary. Otherwise, again, just think about what you're saying. If you don't know the process and you try to automate it, the automation is only going to do what you tell it to do. And if you don't tell it to do all the other steps, it's not going to go right because it's not doing them. It's so obvious, but people are not doing it. So you got to know the process. That's one. And 2, you got to know the data's got to be standardized. You got to be able to look at the data. It's got to be standardized so you know what's happening. And people just don't want to. It's historically, when you say standardize your data, people's eyes roll in the back of their head. They're like, that's a 3-year process. I hate it. And so I just want to say AI makes a lot of that much easier today. The data can be standardized. But if you don't know the process and you're not using your company data and you don't normalize it so it's valuable, all you're doing is automating stupidness. All you're doing is repeating bad stuff. And that's why, again, I want to repeat this. $650 million last year, $650 million spent. 90% of it never got implemented. I mean, those are public stats. That's unbelievable for something that has so much airtime as AI. You'd swear it's changing the world. And most companies are still struggling immensely. Again, on the business side, on the tech side, it is crushing. But on the business side, really very, very, very limited successes in very niche areas.
So thank you for that. I appreciate your ability to bring me back onto task. So that's great. So,
I live it. I just wanted to share that because it's a real thing. No one's talking about it. No one's talking about it. They're like, just automate it. Put in an agent. You're like, good luck. Just get the Claude and put it against your data. It'll give you great results. It won't. Please don't risk your job. Don't make some massive decision based on some free analytic. I don't say that because I want you to be FrontRace. Like I'm just telling you the real world part of it. You stick any complex query into one of these LLMs and it will come out wrong. Period. Three variable query, chances it comes out right are very small. So true.
So, mate, in the last 25 years, you've been involved in about $500 million worth of sales. What did you believe in 2005 that you completely chucked in the bin by 2026?
Oh my God. Well, listen, I think that's. I appreciate the question. To me, there's two seminal moments, right? There's COVID, changed the world. We're not going back to an office full time. Very few people. I mean, we could keep saying it, but the best people aren't. I'm not. You can't pay me enough. They're not. I'm not gonna commute. COVID changed the world forever, and AI is about to change the world forever. And so, I don't know. I think if anyone shows up to your company and says, "Oh, I'm an AI expert. I know what's going to happen," you should throw them out. Hang up. If you're on video conference, just hang up. Throw them out of your office. I don't know. I don't know. I just encourage people. I just think the world in 2035 is going to be so different. And I know that's not a revolutionary thought. And I would not want to be the president that wins the 2028 election, because 2028 to 2032 in my mind are going to be four of the most traumatic years in this country's history, because unless we invoke AI and companies integrate it exactly the right paradigm so we don't hit a blip, we're going to blip. And what I mean by that, I'll just give you a concrete example. For years, it's you and I are kind of old school a little bit. For years, if you were a public company and did a RIF, if you did a massive layoff, you fired 10,000 people, 20,000 people, whatever, what we see happening now, you get crushed by the market. They'd be like, you're horrible management, you overhired.
Yeah, you suck. Obviously, you don't know what you're doing.
Totally. What we've all seen this the last 6 months. What has now happened? Companies are doing significant layoffs and the market rewards them. Yep. Right? The market has had their valuation go up 7, 8, 9, 10% right after a mass layoff. Listen, all public company CEOs are lemmings. God bless their souls. Every public CEO whose charge is to make my company worth more, increase our valuation, sees that. So what's that going to lead to? Clearly, we're going to get rewarded if we do a 10% layoff. So what do you think's coming over the next 2 quarters? A notable set of layoffs. And TBD, can AI backfill that and drive the efficiencies everyone's talking about? Maybe, but not without a lot of the real world people will tell you they're working harder. Is AI amazing? It is. Does it do amazing analytics? It does. But are we operationally able to deliver and be more efficient? TBD. And so I just encourage folks to be super nimble, because the next 5 or 6 years are going to be bumpy. And don't put all your eggs into any basket, because as people at Oracle and other companies just found out, it could be ripped away really quick.
Yeah, 30,000 at Oracle. I saw another one yesterday. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, you're right. 7.5% jump in share price by dropping a couple of thousand people. Yeah. And so now sort of like that Dorman fallacy that Rory Sutherland talks about, the chairman of Ogilvy Mather in the UK. Yeah. They say, the consultant comes in and says, what's the primary function of a doorman? Well, it's to open the door. So they put in an automatic sensor, and now the door opens and closes. But the unspoken about, the underlying function of a doorman is to welcome guests, is to recognize people who have been there before, is to shoo away vagrants, is security, all of this sort of stuff. And what happens is over 5 years, they might have saved that person's wage over 5 years, but now there's somebody sleeping in the front. The bookings are down. The hotel's much worse, and the whole experience is much worse for everybody. But the consultant, what they did is they went, we've saved 5 years worth of the doorman, so we've won. And there's there's no realization of what that looks like at the end. So we've got to find a way to. So what is your advice? So you say nimble, and it's easy to say that, and I'm sort of going to challenge you a little bit. What does stay nimble look like? What is that? What does it practically mean?
Hey, man, listen, I'm going to mail you a $100 gift card. Look, I'll just tell you, again, I just share the following. I don't mean to be so adamant, but we've been living this live with clients for the last 2 years. And so 2 years plus. Here's one way. We believe at FrontRace, I mentioned this earlier, we want to deliver a solution that provides a good foundational base for a company to analyze what they're doing today, standardizes their data, all good, right? Then in the last mile, this last mile of operational technology, this is going to continue to change constantly. We see the LLMs chew each other up. They cannibalize, right? But something that was so sexy and you could charge a fee for 6 months ago is now for free. And so this area of technology that's going to continue to evolve in AI, I would make limited investments in. It's going to constantly change, right? But one step in from the cutting edge technology, being smart and being able to put a good foundational analytical platform inside your company so that, hey, maybe you do consider adding some agents to your SDR program. Okay, well, let's do that, but let's measure them. You have to have a good foundation to measure their results. What are they doing? And follow that, not just a lead, because people stop right at that. Well, my SDR team is creating more leads. Okay, are we closing them? That's the company I mentioned earlier in this podcast. They just closed their own company. Great, we have more leads, but if none of them buy, who cares? You have to follow it through. Is it working? And so that's my biggest encouragement to people of, hey, put in foundational things that let you analyze if you're going to use AI and automate things. Can you measure it? Can you see what its impact is? That to me is staying nimble. But if you just spent 10 years training your sales team, they're really good. You mentioned you had a great team. You gut them and say, oh, we're going to use all automation. You're never getting those people back. And then you won't know, typically it's bad. The outcome typically gets bad, and now you've screwed up the whole thing. So that my encouragement is to it's different for every company, find foundational things. I think two of them are know your processes, get your data ready. And if you want to test some marketing automation, some agents, some stuff, yes, do that. But you need solid foundational tools to analyze. Is it working? Is it working at scale? Because everybody has a story of it working one-off, in a little segment with 2 people. Does it help emails? Yeah. But can we scale that to 30 people? Can we get to $100 million? Can we get to 200? Those are real questions. And so that's the challenge. But people today are making these massive AI bets. On the tech side, do it. I can't talk to that. I'm not a technologist. But on the business side, get your house in order, test limited pilots, because it's all going to look different. We're in the early stages. I don't mean to preach, but we're in the early stages of this. Like we talked earlier, people don't ever say, I'm on the internet. You can find my web. Everybody knows you're on the internet. You don't say, everybody knows you have a website. For goodness sake, we're in the earliest stages of AI. No one knows what 2035 is going to look like, and we're all going to look like idiots. We're going to be like, remember when we used to, dial-up internet? We used to hear the fax sound and wait for AOL to connect us, and that seems ridiculous, right? You couldn't watch a movie on your phone for nothing. So just encourage people to get the basics in order and be able to measure as you're testing things so you know what's working and what's not working, and you can quickly swap those things out. As better high-end technology comes in, you want to be able to swap out without committing to anything notably.
Yeah, cool. So look, the last question I want to ask you, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. So the last question I want to ask you, if you think back to the beginning of your career and you were to, what we started at the beginning, we talked about what would you do differently. So what piece of advice would you give a 25-year-old Jack Siney? Siney. Sorry, I got your name wrong. I promised myself I wasn't going to get your name wrong.
My name's been butchered forever. It's so good.
So I'll ask that question again. So what would be the one piece of advice or one or two pieces of advice you would give a 25-year-old Jack?
Yep. Yeah, I'll say I feel like I executed on part of this. So I grew up in Maryland, kind of lower middle class family. No entrepreneurs, no contacts. It was a struggle, blah, blah, blah. And so I knew if I didn't kind of change my environment and change my network, I was going to repeat what was happening around me. And so that said, my biggest encouragement is that when you're younger, particularly, you think there's this urgency to succeed. And I tell people in their 20s all the time, the biggest thing is to learn and build your network. Don't worry about the money will come. The money will come. If you had the chance as a hypothesis to be around Warren Buffett, to be around, Elon Musk, or Steve Jobs when he was alive. Imagine that. Like for free, you'd be like, I'm not going to work for free. You're like, yeah. Like I know it's an extreme case. We'd all say yes to that. But I used to use that example. Find people in your circle that are like that. Who are highly successful people that are doing what you want to do? Be around those people. And it doesn't matter. You typically don't have a mortgage. You don't have kids. You don't have a wife. Like in your 20s, find the best people already doing what you want to do. Be around them. Learn from them. It's amazing the things you will pick up because it's all little things. The only difference between X success and 10X are 20 little things. It's not the big things. Everybody knows the big things. Everybody knows the pitch, the FAQs, the pricing. It's 20 little things. And you can only get those by being around those people. And when you're around those people, you're building your network. Like it's all about who you know, right? Do you know somebody in this vertical? Do you know somebody that can do this? Oh, I know somebody that leads this company. And so that's the biggest thing for me early in your career is be around people that are doing what you want to do, that the highest, most successful, whatever they are, get around them, be in their network, be a free intern, take the lowest paying job, doesn't matter, just be around them and then build your network of people. That's one of the reasons I went to grad school. It was like, I knew I went to little school in the East Shore, Maryland. I was like, this is not going to work. And so I made sure that when I applied to grad school, I was like, what are some notable grad school that have good networks and blah, blah, blah. Because you need to have some connections to help you kind of go to the next level, unless you get extraordinarily lucky. So don't do this. Please don't do this. We all know the stories. We all know, founder of Facebook or Mike Dell or blah, blah, blah. Like, do people get lucky? Does stuff happen? They wouldn't say they're lucky, but are there amazing stories of people that come up the best? Like Jack Dorsey, if somebody pitched you Twitter, you'd have never invested in, you get 173 characters and that's all. You'd be like, that's stupid. I'm not going to do it. People do break out. That's not the norm though. If you're part of the top 1% in the world, you have an amazing idea and okay, great. But that's not 99% of us. And 99% of us need to be around people that are really successful, build our networks, and in your 30s, you'll leverage that in 30s and 40s and do great things.
Yeah, I love that. The survivor bias in technology and in business is such that, you only ever hear about how Steve Jobs would say, well, do it my way. I'll tell them what they want to have. I'll tell them what they want to buy. Or the Ford Motor Company, they go, well, they can have any car as long as it's black. Like it's but these are outliers. These are survivors. And there's probably 100 people before them and certainly 10,000 after them that have said it's my way or the highway. And they've gone down the tubes. So
listen, I'm in meetings all the time. People are like, well, this is what Google does, and this is what Elon Musk does. You're like, stop. You're not Google. You're not Google, and you're not Elon Musk. So stop. It's the richest guy in the world. Let's not compare yourself to the richest person in the entire world. Google and Apple, two of the most successful companies ever. We're running a little software company in Michigan. You know what I mean? Like, come on. We got to work hard. It's easy peasy. Let's not compare us. Aspire, yes, but geez, let's not say it's us and Apple. It's your little software company and Apple and Google. You're like, no.
That's it. That's the only three businesses in town. Hey, Jack, I've really enjoyed this conversation. If there's anything that you would like to leave the people with, a question, a thought, an ask,
sure.
What do you want to share with the world?
Yeah, I would humbly, if anything I've said resonates, you can follow me on LinkedIn or Jack Siney, Siney. But you can go to FrontRace. If you go to frontrace.com, in the upper right-hand corner, it says join the race. And I really believe what's happening now with AI, it's a race. And we'll let you use our software for a month. Have it. It's not a proof of concept. We'll customize it. We can connect to your systems. It'll be custom, not just plug it in. It's BS proof of concept. It's not. We care that much. We created this company strategically to help. We know so many CROs, executives are stuck and struggling and lost what to do. It will be the one thing you can do. Keep doing everything you're doing. We don't want any money. Let us put our piece of software on top of what you're doing, make you look super smart. And if you want to keep it, you can. You pay for it. If you want to get rid of it, it's fine. But you're going to be smarter 30 days in than you are today. highly suggest you do that. If nothing else from this whole thing, it's an easy win for you to do.
Fantastic, Jack. Thank you very much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity. God bless.
Bye for now.